Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Now, the Supreme Court recently struck down certain provisions on appointments to tribunals. The verdict is especially significant because it is expected to end a 4-year stalemate in judicial appointments to tribunals, which have been reeling under a vacancy crisis of sorts. So in today's KYC episode, I'll take you through the constitutional scheme behind tribunals, and I'll also tell you a bit about why they have been plagued with vacancies over the past few years. Now let us first understand what tribunals exactly are. Basically, these are quasi-judicial institutions, meaning that they aren't exactly courts, but they stand somewhere between a court and an administrative body. So in fact, the word quasi itself means not exactly or almost, or say partly. So most of these tribunals are kind of a court performing functions which are judicial, meaning that they ensure justice and fair play, but they are also flexible, so they can avoid being as technical or say following the exact procedure as regular courts in order to ensure speedy justice, speedier results than courts. So tribunals deal with a variety of disputes such as taxes, service matters, administrative decisions on environment or commercial law. Currently, there are 19 tribunals in total, like the NGT, National Green Tribunal, Central Administrative Tribunal, which is CAT, Armed Forces Tribunals, etc. That are currently functional, and each has a parent law that governs its powers and functions. Now, tribunal benches usually include experts on the judicial side of things by involving legally trained minds in the process, like retired judges or say lawyers, and also technical experts as well, to look into the technical aspects of the matter. Now, so the primary objective of a tribunal is to streamline justice delivery by involving experts and making quicker decisions. So the idea was developed to address concerns of delays and backlogs that judicial system is known for. But many, including senior advocate Arvind Dattar, have openly dubbed tribunals as just an excellent source of post-retirement opportunities for several bureaucrats and high court judges. Now, tribunals actually began way back in 1941 with the setting up of the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, which is ITAT. Many famous lawyers actually developed their argumentative skills in cases before this tribunal, and it is in fact said that Nani Palkhiwala in fact argued more before this tribunal as compared to any other forum. Now then came the infamous 42nd Amendment to the Constitution, which was made by the Indira Gandhi government during the emergency. We especially know this amendment for addition of fundamental duties to the Constitution, but this amendment also introduced Articles 323A and 323B to the Constitution, while at the same time making major amendments by amendments that curtailed the powers of the high courts under various articles of the Constitution. Now, Article 323A talks about administrative tribunals to look into disputes and complaints which relate to recruitment and conditions of service of people appointed to public services and government posts. Only the Parliament can establish such a tribunal. And the second article, this was Article 323B, it talks about establishment of other tribunals by the Parliament or the state legislatures also in this case, on various matters like say assessment or collection of any tax, labour disputes, land reforms, elections. You can see the list on your screens. Now, after the emergency, the Morarji Desai-led Janata government then introduced the 44th Constitutional Amendment in 1978, undoing several changes made to the Constitution during the emergency, but the amendments on tribunals stayed, along with several others like fundamental duties. Now, these provisions have come up before the Supreme Court several times since, but we'll probably discuss those in another episode. But especially for the past 4 years, we've seen a lot of litigation around government rules on tribunals. It all began in April 2017 when the central government first framed rules that laid down a uniform procedure for appointment, tenure and service of all tribunals across the country. But what these rules did was they curtailed the tenure of a judicial member, restricted the age-related eligibility criteria for a lawyer who could apply for such a post, and did away with HRA, which is house rent allowance for such a member. They also gave the centre power to govern appointments and modify service terms and conditions of members of tribunals. tribunals. They also tweaked the constitution of the search cum selection committee, which recommends members to a tribunal to allow for more government nominees in such a search committee. So all of this, if you view this, it was seen as an attempt by the government to gain more control and a more dominant hand in the appointment of tribunal members across the country. But in November 2019, a 5-judge constitution bench struck down such provisions and directed the government to formulate fresh norms on appointment of tribunal members within 6 months. Then came February 2020, the government did come up with a new set of rules, but these rules now made lawyers ineligible for the post of tribunal members. These rules were also questioned before the Supreme Court, which again directed the government to modify them in November 2020. These are 2 judgments by now. Now, in this November 2020 judgment, the court laid down specific rules regarding appointments to tribunals, including allowing a lawyer with 10 years of experience to apply as a judicial member, increasing the tenure of the member from 4 to 5 years, fixing 1.5 lakhs as HRA for tribunal chairman and 1.25 lakh for a member. It also said that judicial members shall be considered for reappointment after their tenure ends. But you see, after these 2 Supreme Court judgments and tussle over appointment of tribunal members, it had been on for a few years, after which came the Tribunals Reform, Rationalization and Conditions of Service Ordinance 2021 in April this year. But this also had provisions similar to the 2020 appointment rules that had been declared invalid by the Supreme Court. So this ordinance was also challenged in the Supreme Court, and that's what the recent judgment is based on that I spoke about at the start of this video. What the Supreme Court has now done is it has struck down certain provisions of this 2021 ordinance. These provisions that have been struck down prescribed a minimum age of 50 years for appointment of lawyers to tribunals as judicial members, and the ordinance also fixed their tenure at 4 years instead of 5 that the Supreme Court had directed earlier. So it basically called the 50-year age requirement as arbitrary and discriminatory, and it said that their tenure should be 5 years and not 4 years as it had said before. Now, as I had mentioned before, the idea of constituting specialized tribunals developed in view of delays and backlog in the judicial system, but the Supreme Court now also took note of the vacancies and pendency of cases that started plaguing the tribunals as well, just like courts. Several lawyers practicing in these tribunals have since blamed the government for not accepting the Supreme Court's 2 verdicts and dragging on the litigation for 4 years, because of which induction of new members has been stalled, and this has impacted the tribunals. For example, the Supreme Court in its judgment only noted that the National Company Law Tribunal, that is NCLT, there it has more than 21,000 cases pending, while there are only 38 members as against a sanctioned strength of 63. Similarly, in the Armed Forces Tribunal, only 11 out of 34 posts are filled, while more than 18,800 cases are pending for disposal. In CAT as well, which deals with service matters, there were only 36 members as against a sanctioned strength of 65 and over 48,000 pending matters. That's all I have for you today, and before I sign off, I'd like to tell our viewers about our new membership plan. You can now become a member of our YouTube channel at just rupees 159 per month, and with this membership come a host of exclusive benefits for all our members. For example, our members will get early access to some of our key videos, and we also have our reporters respond personally to members' comments. So do become members soon. This is Apurva Mandhani for The Print. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well for more such videos, and follow us on social media.